So every day I open my Instagram, LinkedIn and YouTube. Someone raised 50 crore, someone raised 200 crore and someone raised over 100 million US dollars in Series B. And we all sit and think, wow, that's what success looks like. That's the dream. That's the goal. But here's what nobody's telling us. Nithin Kamath built Zerodha, India's largest brokerage, with zero funding and zero advertisement. Just 2 lakh of his savings and a decade of patience. Today, the company has more than 1 crore active clients and a revenue crossing 5,000 crores. Sridhar Vembu built Zoho from an apartment in 1996. No investor, no VC, no IPO. Just product, patience and purpose. Today, the company has more than 100 million clients worldwide and a revenue approaching $1.2 billion. And he still operates from a small village in Tamil Nadu. Sara Blakely started Spanx with $5,000 from a personal saving and kept 100% of a company for 21 years. And today, the revenue is reaching $1.2 billion. The media will never cover these stories because there's no funding announcement to make. There's no headline. There's no drama. Right? But I will cover it because I'm one among you. I'm a bootstrapped early stage startup, figuring out daily, making mistakes daily, and because I've co-founded a podcast, I get an opportunity to sit with the leading founders who have already made the $100 million and who are already successful. So I get an opportunity to sit with them and hear their story and find out what is the secret sauce behind, building what we all are trying to build. So today, there's no fluff, no theory, no motivational nonsense, but the real playbook to build your company to $100 million. So let's start. I want to talk about something which I believe is hurting entrepreneurs in India the most right now, the funding myth. So the idea that you have not raised money, you are not a real startup, you're not serious and you're playing small. I used to feel this, honestly. And when I used to hear someone raising 100 crore in Series B or in the seed fund, I used to wonder and I used to sit down and be demotivated and think, what am I doing wrong? Why am I grinding so much while these guys are celebrating on stage? Here's what Nithin Kamath, to build Zerodha with zero funding and zero advertisement, had a very unique perspective on funding. He said getting investors on board is literally like getting married, because having unrealistic expectations which leads to disappointment and generally doesn't end well. Sridhar Vembu, who again built Zoho with zero funding, had been offered money multiple times, but he always said no. When asked, he said a single word: freedom. In his view, funding comes with strings attached. The most common expectations are exit or liquidity event. So you already have a lot of unknowns in business, right? And on top of it, a finite clock ticking. So the takeaway is, don't think of funding as a celebratory event. If you look at it seriously, literally, it is in a sense borrowing. So let that sink in. 2 of India's most prominent and famous bootstrap founders who are now billionaires are telling us that don't take or glorify funding as a privilege. Instead, it's a pressure. Sara Blakely, who we spoke about earlier, is who built a $1.2 billion revenue company, zero investors, said when she also used to hear about her counterparts and others raising funds, she wondered, am I a loser? What am I doing wrong? But something in her told her that no, I don't want to dilute myself. So if you are sitting here, my friend, and building something just like me without funding, believe me, you are not playing small. Believe me, you're not behind. In fact, you are playing a different game altogether. And I would rather argue and say a very powerful one. So let's learn how to win this game. Here's the first question I ask every entrepreneur I sit with. I wish someone had asked me this before I started. My question is, what game are you playing? Because there are only 2. Game 1, you build to exit. You raise money, grow fast, go public, or get acquired, cash out, move on. Some really brilliant people play this game. While game 2, you build to last. you are there in the business for the next 10, 20 years, and there's no exit plan. The problem is most of us never consciously choose. So we're just running, and 3 years down the line, we're making decisions that don't even do justice to what company we were planning to build. Sridhar Vembu, he chose game 2. He planned his R&D for the next 4, 5, 6 years to build into the future. And that kind of thinking can only be possible when you really don't have to answer the quarterly investor calls. So before you even hire anyone, build your company or choose the name of the company, sit and decide what kind of company you want to build and what game you're playing, and that will let all your decisions fall into place. And then let every answer flow from the decision. So, okay, the next one that completely changed my perception about how I think, where am I going? So I've asked every founder whom I met the same question. Which phase was the hardest? 0 to 10? 10 to 20 or 20 to 50, and they and believe me, almost all of them gave me the same answer. 0 to 10 was the easiest. And when I heard of this answer, believe me, I was like, excuse me, because I started relating it to myself. I feel I'm in this phase from 0 to 10. It's the hardest thing that I've done in my life. So because when you're in between 0 to 10, you almost know everything. You know your clients personally, you know every team member of yours. And if something breaks, you're there to fix it. So definitely there's hard work, but simple work. But 10 to 20, you start losing closeness and complexity multiplies. So, and 20 to 50, you're, managing teams of teams, and things break in a way which you have never ever seen before. And 50 to 100, believe me, you're running a company which is completely different from what you started. I also want to talk about something which I personally think about every week while running my business. And I'm going to say it plainly because every founder I spoke to, who has gone through a rough patch, traced it exactly like this. So the number one thing that will slow or kill your growth is the outgrowing of your leadership team. And not bad marketing, not a bad product, not bad timing, but your leadership team. And here's what happens. Revenue grows, you are excited, you don't have the right leaders in place, so you scramble. You promote people who aren't ready, you hire people from outside, or you hire leaders from outside. Slowly you realize that the culture cracked. And if you are in the service business where your people are your product, and a cracked company culture is nearly a death sentence. What will happen if your product walks out of the door anytime? Here the smartness, self-awareness factor comes in. For example, I would like to cite the example of Sara Blakely, or from Spans. She knew right from day one that she is excellent at making sales, but she's terrible at operations. So what she did, she hired a professional CEO early on so that she could focus on what she knows best. Nithin Kamath is Zerodha. His core team stayed for 4 to 5 years. Why does this matter? Because understanding compounds. A team that knows your culture, your product, your business, is 10 times more productive and 10 times more valuable than hiring 20 new hires who still figure out. So the lesson for me and probably for you is that the leaders who brought you to the next level probably are not the same ones who brought you to this level. And by the time you desperately need them, it's too late to build them. So find them now and get them responsibility now. Moving on, here's something that Indian founders in particular taught me, which is a counter to what the startup culture is. Stop chasing attention and start building trust. I would love to again talk about Nithin Kamath, how he built Zerodha with zero advertising. So how did they build a customer base of almost 1 crore? It was purely through a word of mouth. They very genuinely helped the traders by building a free financial education platform which helped the users to trade better. Say, if you look at it, Sridhar Vembu built his products against Google, Salesforce, Microsoft, such big giants with zero media and zero press. He never chased the media. What he did was he built and shipped products for 28 years. Alex Hormozy, who scaled his business to almost $120 million, has a principle which I keep coming back to. So he says customers will accept something of less excellent, but will never tolerate more of something mediocre. But read that again. Less of something excellent, more of something mediocre. However, what he means is as you grow, the temptations to grow faster, to make more money, increase your scale up your business, say yes to everything, might dilute your standard, and that temptation will keep on growing louder. And the founders who last that temptation are the one who resist it every single time, because quality is not your feature, it's your reputation, and reputation is multiplies 10 times faster than your money. And here's something that Indian founders in particular taught me, which is a counter to the startup culture. Stop focusing on attention, but start focusing on building trust. Nithin Kamath spent 10 years as a trader, watching retail investors getting ripped off by high commissions and opaque pricing. So he lived the problem for a decade before he solved it. Sara Blakely cut the feet of her pantyhose before a party. That was the idea, a $1 billion idea coming from her own frustration. Sridhar Vembu saw the rural India completely being ignored by the tech economy. So that's why he built his company there, not despite it, but because of it. Jensen Huang co-founded NVIDIA in Denny's restaurant with $40,000, and which he himself described that had zero chance of success. But he saw a problem which nobody else focused on, and he stayed with it for 30 long years. Every single one of them tried to solve a problem that they personally felt and understood, not something that a consultant told them that there was a huge market gap that they need to address. Here's my question for you. What problem do you understand better than anyone else in the room? Start there. Sridhar Vembu admitted himself. He said that they couldn't grasp the full potential of the internet early enough. Otherwise, they would have been on the cloud in 1997 itself. That's why they took 4 to 5 more years to be on the cloud. And right now, we are sitting in the middle of one of the largest technological shifts since the internet. AI is not coming soon. It's already here. It's reshaping how industries operate. So the founders who are building right now and who carve out a real budget and real time and embrace this will be miles ahead in the next 3 years. And the ones who are waiting to still feel ready and comfortable, and the other ones who will be playing catch up in the future. Here's what I'm doing for my business, and I would recommend or even request you all to do it. So carve out a certain percentage of your revenue and put it and invest it in innovation. No, don't plan for future. Just do it right now. Make it as a line item and make it untouchable, because it's extremely important to stay relevant today. Now I want to spend a minute on talking about something which we just did not speak about. Building a real company costs you something really real. Every founder I've spoken to has been, very honest about this. Time, energy, relationships under pressures, days, and sometimes even years when you don't know if it's really going to work. Nithin Kamath lost all his money at 17. He started working in the call center in the night while trading during the day, and spent almost a decade grinding before Zerodha became what it became today. And that's the mindset. Not reckless, not fearless, but just free. Free from the pressure of what other people think your company should look like. Where we are going to have hard days. We are going to have tough days. And there will be moments where we'll question everything. But during those days, we need to remember that Nithin Kamath lost everything before he built everything. Sridhar Vembu was building quietly when everyone said Indians can't build products. Sara Blakely was stuffing packages alone in the midnight while going to a full-time job in the morning. Plunge as an entrepreneur is that the sacrifice isn't an obstacle. The sacrifice is a job. Here, I'm not standing here as someone who has figured it all. So I'm building, I'm early, and I'm making mistakes. I'm making mistakes every day. But from my conversations that I had with the founders in India and abroad, here's the real playbook, that will work for all of us, I believe. Here's how the real playbook actually looks like. Choose your game deliberately. Build to exit or build to last. But choose your game, don't just run. Number 2, slow doesn't mean you're wrong. If you're chasing the right problem with the right people, your time will definitely come. Number 3, build your leadership before you need them, not just during the crisis. Number 4, build trust before you build any hype. Your trust compounds faster than any ad spend. So number 5, solve a problem that you really felt from deep inside and not just picking it from a trend report. Number 6, innovate before you feel comfortable. Fund it now, don't wait. 7, know the real cost, choose it consciously, and then show up every day. And that's the game. It's not glamorous. It's not a funding announcement or not a TechCrunch headline. It's just consistent, excellent, and patient work over years. And that's how you build something, worth $100 million or billion or even more. So, and if this gave you something today, please share it with the person who's building and needs to hear it. And please do drop a comment if this, if any one of them hit hardest for you. I would love to read every single one of them and understand, and build a community where we all can share and exchange our growth story as well as our challenges and grow together. Thank you so much for watching this. Thank you.